Okay, start na ko Your record na rin ako. Okay, for limit theorem 1, the limit of a linear function, if m and b daw are any constants, so the limit of mx plus b as x approaches to a is equal to ma plus b. Substitute na nato diretso ang ato ang a, which is x nato, ato ang x sa iyahang function nga x. So, mo na nahimo siya mx plus b. So this theorem implies that to evaluate the limit of linear function, f of x is equal to mx plus b. As x approaches a, we simply substitute with the value of a in the function f of x. So muna, gi-substitute na to ang value ni x daan which is si a sa tuang function x. So ma plus b. So for example, so the limit of 2x minus 3 as x approaches to 1. So substitute the value of x which is 1. So 2 times 1 is equal to 2 minus 3. So 2 minus 3 is equal to negative 1. Okay, for limit theorem 2, the limit of a constant. So if c daw is any constants, then for any number a, our limit would be the constant number. So the limit of c as x approaches to a is equal to c. Kaya wala siya masubstitutan man ang atuang a. Muna diretso na butang si constant number which is si c. For example, the limit of 5.
So kung sir mo po
man?
answer.
Unsa?
Kung unsa ang si sir mo po answer.
Kung wala siya kauban niya x. For example, limit of 5 as x approaches to 1. So the limit would be 5 lang siya, kay constant man siya. Wala siya x nga atong masubstitutan kay 1. Muna ang ato ang limit of a constant. So here, the limit of identity function. So the limit of x as x approaches a is equal to a. Why? Because we substitute the value of x sa ato ang function x.
Oo.
So that's why nahimo siya a ang ato ang limit. So example, the limit of x as x approaches to negative 1. So that's why the answer is negative 1.
Negative 1.
Okay, next, limit theorem 4. The limit of the sum or difference of two functions. So if limit of f of x as x approaches to a is equal to L, and if limit of g of x as x approaches a is equal to m, so then the limit of f of x plus or minus g of x as x approaches to a is equal to L plus or minus m. So first natong gibuhat ani is gipangita muna nato ang iyahang limit sa first function. So that's why natay L, and sa second function also gipangita nato yung limit, that's why naapod siya M. So apply the operation, plus ba siya or minus, magdepende sa iyahang equation nga gihatag sa ato. So for example, for example, the limit of 2x minus 3x squared as x approaches to negative 1. So the limit of f of x minus g of x kay minus ang nakabutang daan so minus ato ang gigamit as x approaches to negative 1. So first is we're going to find the limit of the first function which is 2x. So the limit of 2x as x approaches to negative 1. So substitute the value of x which is negative 1 to the function. So 2 times negative 1 is negative 2.
Negative 2.
Okay, copy the sign which is negative and find the limit of 3x squared as x approaches to negative 1. So the limit of 3x squared, gisubstitutan na to si x o negative 1. So negative 1 raised to the power of 2 is positive 1. 1 plus 3 ay times 3 is equal
positive
to 3. Positive 3. But then naman siya negative dire. So morning nahimo siya og negative 2 minus 3.
Minus 3.
Okay. Negative 2 minus 3, i-add na to sila. Tapos copy this sign. So that's why the limit of 2x minus 3x squared as x approaches to negative 1 is equal to 5.
Negative.
Negative 5, I mean. Okay. Next, for limit theorem 4, generalizing limit theorem 4 to n functions. So we have the following theorem. So theorem 5, the limit of sum and or difference of n functions. So dire is naa siya daghang functions up to the nth term. So same process sa ato ang limit theorem 4. Ang nakakuan lang is up to the nth term siya. So pangitaon na to tanan iyahang limit kada function. So we have here an example. 3x squared minus 2x plus 3 as x approaches to negative 1. So we have here the limit of 3x squared as x approaches to negative 1. So negative 1 raised to the power of 2 is positive 1 times 3. So that's why we have
Positive
3
3.
here. Then the limit of 2x as x approaches to negative 1. So negative 1 times 2. Substitute
Negative
na to
2.
kay x. So negative 2 times negative. So that's why
Negative.
it is positive 2.
Ay, positive dahil.
Okay. So here, kani 2x na noon. The limit of 3 as x approaches to negative 1, since this is a constant number, so ato idiretso siya sulat ang constant number niya, which is 3. So mo na yung limit. So i-add na to sila tanan kay plus lang man na. So 3 plus 2, 5. So plus 3 is equal to 8. So the limit of 3x squared minus 2x plus 3 as x approaches to negative 1 is equal to 8. Question.
I-times pagid aning sa negative, sir. Kaning kuan.
Kani?
Sa sign on. Oh, yes, sir.
Oh, kailangan.
I-appeal dahil.
Oh, i-apply na to na siya. So the limit of 2x man. So 2 times negative 1. So negative 2.
Negative 2.
Yan naman siya negative yung kauban. So ato gina siya i-multiply. So negative times negative would become
Positive.
positive. Oh, sige. Next. For limit of the product of two functions. So from the word product, multiplication. So if limit of f of x as x approaches to a is equal to L, and the limit of g of x as x approaches to a is equal to m, so gipangita nato daan ilahang limits. Pero ang iyahang operation man is multiplication. So that's why we have here the limit of f of x times g of x as x approaches to a is equal to L times m. So multiply na to sila ilahang mga limits. For example, the limit of 3x squared times 2x as x approaches to negative 1. So using the formula, times g of x, f of x times g of x. So the limit of 3x squared. So the first function, so 3x squared as x approaches to negative 1, substitute the value of x na pod. So negative 1 raised to power of 2 is positive 1
Positive 1.
times 3 is 3. Next, sa second function, 2x. So 2 times negative 1.
Negative 2.
Okay, negative 2. So multiply na to silang duha. Positive 3 times negative 2 is equal to
Negative.
negative 6. Correction ni na inyo dia. Naanay niya sayop kanio. Na plus na ko ang nabutang.
Yes, sir.
Multiply na siya. Okay, next. Wala na kay question na to.
Wala na, sir.
Okay. So for limit theorem 7, same sa 6 gyapon pero up to nth term siya. So pangitaon nato gyapon ang iyang first limit, second limit up to the nth term. Then i-multiply nato sila tagsa-tagsa. So more na siya sa ato ang limit theorem 7. Wala siya sample, more magyapon. Multiply lang nato. Kani ato sample niyo. Si 3x squared minus 2x plus 3 as x approaches to negative 1. Ikuha na to ni siya as times. For sample lang niya. So kana. Period lang kay butang ha. Nano nako. So i-multiply nato sila tanan times so the limit of negative 3 times na 2 so positive 3 kajot say plus star. So okay, so 3x squared. So substitute na to si negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 1, positive 1 times 3. So natay 3 dire times. So the limit of 2x, substitute na to si negative 1. Negative 1 times 2 is
Negative
negative
2.
2. So next is pila? 3.
Negative 3.
So
Ay,
negative
3 lang.
3 lang.
Constant man di ay.
Constant. So 3 times negative 2.
Negative 6. Ay. Yeah.
Sa man gyud?
Negative 6.
Okay, negative 6. Negative 6 times 3 is 6, 12, 8.
Negative
So
18.
negative 18. So mo na ang atuang sample atong limit theorem 7. Okay na.
Yes, sir.
So proceed ta sa special case of limit theorem 7. Wait sa ha. Okay, limit theorem 8. The limit of the nth power of a function. So if limit f of x as x approaches to a is equal to L, then the limit of f of x raised to the power of n as x approaches to a is equal to L raised to the power of n. So ang giingon ani is kung ang limit nato ani aning limit of f of x is equal to L daw, kung raised to the power of n siya, so atong i-copy gihapon iyang raised to the power of n. So gi-raise na to si L sa power of n. So for example, para mas masabtan, the limit of 4x minus 5 raised to the power of 4 as x approaches to 2. So we have here the limit of 4x minus 5 as x approaches to 2. So gipagawas na to si 4. Gipangita nato daan ang ato ang limit ni 4x ug negative 5. So substitute 2. Si x na to is 2. 4 times 2, 8.
8.
Minus 5.
3.
Okay, 3. Nga nung 5 atong gi-minus kay constant. So diretso na nato kuan si 5 which is constant man siya, di ba? So we have here
Yes, sir.
3 raised to the power of 4. So pila?
81.
Okay, 81. So that is the answer of the limit of 4x negative 5 as x approaches to 4 as x approaches.
Sir.
Unsa?
Unsa timaylan nga L sa siya?
Unsay L? Ang L is limit.
Aw, lagi.
Kung unsay answer sa ato ang limit, erase na to sa iyang exponent kung unsay nakabutang sa equation.
Ang katong M, sir, unsa to, sir?
Ang N, mo na ang iyang kuan.
Ang
Exponent.
M ba, sir? M?
M, isa ka
Yes, sir.
kuan. Ang isa ka answer sa limit, gilahi lang niya og kuan. Variable, pero dili kuan, dili libog. Pero same na to siya, limit. Ang iyang answer is always limit. Kani gigamitan na to og L sub 1, L sub 2. Kay daghan man sila. Pero kato, pwede ra siya L and M. Kani. LM. Basta kay limit ang answer, gyapon ani is limit. Okay, asa pa ta next? Wala na question sa theorem 8.
Wala na, sir.
Okay, sa 9 ta.
Yes, sir.
Limit of the quotient of two functions. So if limit of f of x as x approaches to a is equal to L, and the limit of g of x as x approaches to a is equal to m, then the limit of f of x over g of x as x approaches to a is equal to L over m.
M.
And also m should not be equal to 0.
0.
Okay ha, denominator dapat dili equal to 0. Okay, for the illustration, if limit of 4x minus 5 as x approaches to 0 is equal to negative 5, and the limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches to 0 is equal to 1, then by limit theorem 9, we have the limit of 4x minus 5 divided by 2x plus 1 as x approaches to 0. So first na itong ikuan is the limit of 4x minus 5 as x approaches to 0. So substitute the value of x. Wait sa, ano to? Dira. Substitute the value of x, which is 0. So 4 times 0. 0. Minus 5. So copy negative 5. And sa denominator, the limit of 2x plus 1 as x approaches to 0. So 2 times 0 again is 0,
0.
1. So 1. So negative 5 over 1 is equal to negative 5 only. So that is the answer of the limit of 4x minus 5 over 2x plus 1 as x approaches to 0.
Kaning
Question.
negative 5 of 1, sir, para asa ni sir? Kaning sa given nga gibutang.
Mo na yung answer, gidiretso niya pangita ang iyang limits. Oh. Kani dire gipakita lang niya, gi-illustrate ganiya tanan giyon sa process.
Kaya ina nga fraction, sir, no, i-divide sa one denominator.
Oh, divide diretso. Kung di siya ma-divide, as is lang nimo siya. Fraction lang ibutang. Okay, so note that if f of x is equal to 4x minus 5 over 2x plus 1, then f of 0, so ang f of 0 daw is equal to 0 minus 5 over 0 plus 1 is equal to negative 5. And also sa isa, the limit of f of x as x approaches to 0 is equal to f of 0. So equal daw nga to ang limit of f of x as x approaches to 0 sa ato ang f of 0. So kaning f of 0, dara gisolve na to siya, f of 0. Substitute diretso ang ato ang value nga 0 sa ato ang equation. So that's why na negative 5 over 1 is equal to negative 5 also. So kaning limit of f of x as x approaches to 0, daanin ni siya nga solution sa taas. Na to nawala. Kani. The limit of the function. So negative 5, since equal man sila, so equal sila, so the limit of f of x as x approaches to 0 is equal to f of 0.
0.
So in general, for rational functions, f of x is equal to p times p of x over q of x, where p of x and q of x are polynomial functions and the q of x should not be equal to 0. So if a is in the domain of f, then the limit of f of x is equal to f of a because x approaches to 0 man. Substitute directly the value of a, which is the x. So ano to? Next. So expressions such as 0 over 0, infinity over infinity, or infinite over infinite, 0 times infinite, x and on, infinite minus x, infinite, 0 raised to the power of 0, infinite raised to the power of 0, 1 raised to the power of infinite are called indeterminate forms. So if after direct application of one or any combinations of limit theorems from 1 to 10, so we encounter an indeterminate form, then we evaluate the limit of a given functions after some algebraic manipulation. Sabay. So if maka-answer gay ita og 0/0, ano to? Kani maka-answer kita mga ingon ani mo ni yung gitawag nga indeterminate forms. Basta mga ingon ana. So in evaluating the limit of x squared minus 9 over x minus 3 as x approaches to 3, we first note that a is equal to 3. Wait sa ha.
Oh.
Wait sa ha. So okay, example na to ato indeterminate forms. So the limit of x squared minus 9 over x minus 3 as x approaches to 3. So we first note that a is equal to 3 is not in the domain of the function f of x. X squared minus 9 over x minus 3. Therefore, the limit of x squared minus 9 over x minus 3 as x approaches to 3 is not equal to f of 3. Okay, solve na to. So here, f of x. So atong imo og f of 3. Kay substitute na to diretso ang value ni 3. So f of 3. So 3 raised to the power of 2 is 9. 9 minus 9 is 0.
0.
And f of 3, substitute the value of 3 sa x. So 3 minus 3 is
0.
0. So 0/0 is an indeterminate form. And also this one, the limit of x squared minus 3 over x minus 3 as x approaches to 3. So same process. There. So the limit of x squared. So 3 times 3 minus 9.
0.
So 0/0. Same ra gyapon siya answer. So 0/0. Wait sa ha. X squared. Okay, sige. Muna niya itong gikuan niya. Kung diretso na to siya solve as f of 3. So since it is an indeterminate form man, the limit cannot be determined. So there are note. However, that both numerator and denominator have a common factor which is x minus 3. So since the limit of x squared minus 9 over x minus 3 as x approaches to 3 is ma-factor man ni nato si x squared minus 9. So ma-factor na to siya as x minus 3 times x plus 3. So maka-cancel ta nila sa ubos ug sa taas. So na-cancel na to si x minus 3 ug si x minus 3. That's why we have x plus 3. Kato ni example na to last time, di ba? Katong first example na to. So nahimo siya x plus 3. So the limit of x plus 3 as x approaches to 3. So substitute the value of x. So 3 plus 3 is equal to 6. Therefore, the limit of x squared minus 9 over x minus 3 as x approaches to 3 is equal to 6. That's why here, ang giingon niya is not equal sila. Because the answer of limit of x, the limit of x squared minus 9 over x minus 3 as x approaches to 3 is equal to 6 man. There ang iyang solution. Di siya equal sa f of 3 kung atong idiretso og substitute ang value ni x sa ato ang equation. Kung wala na taga factor o ga-cancel. So mo nang not equal sila.
Pwede ra isa ka method ang gamiton na sir.
Unsa man aning fraction basta fraction
Kanang
unsa?
pwede sir kanang dili na kanang factor.
Kung dili ni may factor, ma-indeterminate form man siya, kailangan man nato kitaan ang iyahang kuan limit.
Kinahanglan ng answer dili indeterminate.
Yeah. Kailangan dili does not exist. Dili DNE.
Maong
So
kinahanglan i-factor.
kailangan nato pangitaon ang iyahang factor or ma-cancel ang iyahang equations. Ang main kuan goal nato ani is to cancel the denominator. Kay maka-cancel ta sa denominator, dili naman ma-DNE. Kay bawal man gyud ta na denominator nga 0. So muna ang first goal na to is to cancel out the denominator. Basta makakita tawag na ay indeterminate form nga answer or limits. Klaro?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
next. The limit of the nth root of a function. So if n is a positive integer and limit of f of x as x approaches to a is equal to L, then the limit of the square root or the n root of f of x as x approaches to a is equal to nth root of L. So first buhato na to is i-find na to ang limit sa ato ang f of x before na to i-apply ang iyang root. So with the restriction that if n is even, so our limit is greater than or equal to 0. Kung ato ang limit daw is kuan, ato ang limit is even, greater than or equal to 0 ang ato ang answer. So illustration, using limit theorem 10. So sample, the limit of the cube root of 2x cubed plus 4x minus 5 as x approaches to 0. So first thing nga gibuhat na to is we find the limit of this function which is 2x cubed plus 4x minus 5. So x approaching to 0 man, so 0 raised to the power of 3. Pila?
0.
Okay, 0. 0 times 2.
0.
Okay, 0. So plus 4 times 0.
0.
Okay, so negative 5. The limit of negative 5, constant.
Negative 5.
Okay, negative 5. So next, nabili naman na to is negative 5. So pangitaon na nato iyahang cube root. So the cube root of negative 5 is ambot, pila. So
Basta mo na to, sir, ang answer to.
basa mo na siya. So observe in this case that the radical function of f of x as the cube root of 2x cubed plus 4x minus 5 has a domain which includes the value of a, which is 0, and f of 0 is equal to the cube root of negative 5. So thus, the limit of f of x as x approaches to 0 is equal to f of 0. So equal lang atong if f of 0 o atong limit of f of x as x approaches to 0. Kung substitute na to diretso ang ato ang 0 sa equation, same ra gyapon ang ilahang answer, which is a cube root of negative 5. So therefore, for radical functions, f of x is equal to the nth root of g of x, where g of x is either a polynomial function of degree n or a rational function if a, mag-end in 10 minutes. So if a is in the domain of f, then the limit of x, f of x as x approaches to a is equal to f of a. So another example.
Nalagi limit, sir. Ang kuan, meeting time.
45 minutes ra siya taman. Basta Zoom. Kailangan siya i-upgrade pagka pro para ma-unlimited. Okay, so example. The limit of square root of x squared plus 2x plus 3 over 3x plus 1 as x approaches to 1. So in this example, f of x is equal to square root of x squared minus 2x plus 3 over 3x minus 1. And f of 1 is equal to the square root of 1 minus 3 plus 2 plus 3 over 3 minus 1. Okay. I-substitute niya diretso ang value ni 1, ni x, which is 1. So, for f of 1, substitute diretso. So, 1 raised to the power of 2 is 1. So, 2 times 1 is 2. Copy the negative sign. So, negative 2. Then, constant, which is 3 lang. So, copy 3. So, 3 times 1, 3 minus 1 is equal to 2. So, 2 siya dire. So, 1 minus 2, pila? Negative 1. Negative 1 plus 3 is 2. So, that's why square root of 2 over 2 or 2 over 2 is equal to 1. So, square root of 1 is equal to 1.
1.
Okay. Since a is equal to 1 is in the domain of f, so we say that the limit of f of x. So, unsa gani ang domain, di ba? Ang x na to is domain. So, we say that the limit of f of x as x approaches to 1 is equal to f of 1 is equal to 1. So, our limit of f of x as x approaches to 1 and f of 1 is equal to each other, and their limit is 1 also.
1.
Okay. This one, the complicated one. Find the limit of x squared, of square root of x. Find the limit of square root of x minus 2 over x minus 4 as x approaches to 4. So in this example, the f of x is equal to square root of x minus 2 over x minus 4. And Ra is 4, is not in the domain of f. So wala daw siya sa domain of f. Kay, inag-substitute na to diretso si a na to, which is si 4. So 4 minus 4 is equal to
0, sir.
Yeah, bawal ang
okay,
0.
0. So bawal man ang 0. So we have here. So we evaluate the limit by applying the appropriate limit theorems. So here, the limit of square root of x minus 2 as x approaches to 4. So substitute square root of 4 is equal to 2.
2.
2 minus 2 is equal to 0.
0.
So 4 minus 4 is equal to 0 over 0. So an indeterminate form siya. So to answer that one, we need to rationalize the enumerator of f of x. So saan na to pag-rationalize? So dira. So the limit of square root of x minus 2 over x plus minus 4 as x approaches to 4. So we have here the limit of square root of x minus 2 over x minus 4 as x approaches to 4. I-multiply na to siya sa positive sign. Paminaw. I-multiply na to siya sa positive sign sa ato ang numerator. So i-multiply na to siya sa square root of x plus 2 over square root of x plus 2. Kaning square root of x plus 2 over square root of x plus 2 is equal to 1 na siya. So, kung buot na unaon, wala tayo gibag-o sa ato ang equation, wala tayo gidungag nga number, kay ato ang gibutang lang is si 1. So, 1 times this one is just the same function lang. Di ba? Kay 1 raman ni siya ang equal ani. So, in rationalizing, ato lang siyang gipangitaan og value nga pwede ta maka multiply diha. Pero 1 ra gyapon ni siya. Ang iyang equivalent. So, wala tayo na bag-o, wala tayo gailisan. Ato lang is atong irrationalize. So, here. Square root of x minus 2 times square root of x plus 2. So, unsaon man na to, i-multiply na to. So, square root of x raised to the power of 2. Diba? Square root of x raised to the power of 2. So, makancel na to si raised to the power of 2 og
Square root,
si
sir.
square root. Okay, very good. And next, si negative 2 times positive 2 is
Negative.
Negative 4.
Negative 4, sir.
negative 4. That's why we have here x minus 4. Next na po, si x minus 4 times square root of x plus 2. So as is na nato na siya kay nakita nato nga naatay ma-cancel. Di ba ang ato ang main purpose basta naatay indeterminate form is we need to cancel out the denominator nga makapa himo sa iya og 0, di ba? So nakitaan man nato nga ato ang sa taas is x minus 4 so maka-cancel man ta diri sa iyang denominator nga x minus 4. So atong gi-cancel so that's why nabili nato is 1. Nganong 1 man na kay wala na may nabili dani so sabotable understandable naman na siya nga naay 1 diha. So 1 over square root of x plus 2. That's why pwede na nato siya ma-apply ang iyang limit nga i-substitute na to ang value ni x which is 4. So 1 over square root of 4 pila? Square root of 4
2, sir.
2. 2 plus 2
2, sir.
is 1
4.
over 4. So that's why our limit of square root of x minus 2 over x minus 4 as x approaches to 4 is equal to 1 over 4. Okay. Basta maka-encounter gani mo ingon ani and indeterminate form siya, i-rationalize ninyo siya and then para ma-rationalize ninyo, di ba 1 naman na siya gyapon, ato ang tan-awon ang iyahang numerator. So pag tanaw to sa numerator, negative siya. So ang ato ang ikuan dani is positive. Pero kung makakita ta nga positive ni, ato ibutang daan ni is negative ang iyang sign. Klaro na.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
now we consider limit theorems involving rational functions of specific form. Jut lang. So na oras. Not by oras. So limit theorem 11. If r is any positive integer, then 1 over x raised to the power of r as x approaches to 0 from the right. Di ba? From the right ang positive, no? So from the right, that's why ang ato ang limit is equal to positive infinite. Okay? Basta ang ato ang r is any positive integer. So x raised to the power of r. So unsa man mga positive integer? 1, 2, 3, basta ana. Mga
1
positive
pataas.
numbers, yes. So ato lang tan-awod if x approaches to 0 positive. So kung 0 from the left, from the right gani, directly, our limit would become positive infinite. So here, if ato ang kwan is from the left, limit is x approaches to 0 from the left, na siya'y duha ka choices. Duha ka conditions. So mahimo siyang positive infinite if ang ato ang r is even. Unsa mga even numbers?
2, 4, 6, 8,
Okay.
10.
2.
So, mahimo siya positive infinite. So, negative infinite if ang ato ang ato ang r is odd numbers.
Add.
Yeah. For example, we have here the limit of 1 over x raised to the power of 5 as x approaches to 0 from the right. So, any number man daw ang r, di ba? Any integer, positive integer, o ato ang x approaches to 0 from the right. So basta from the right gani, diretso, positive infinite. Di ba? So
Sir.
kani, example ani isa 1 over x raised to power of 6. Positive. Then plus po daan eh. So diretso, positive infinite. Okay, this one. Second example. Kani, from the left man siya. So from the left, unya pagtan-aw nato sa iyang exponent dire sa x raised to power of 5, 5 is an